No one's ever thinking like, I wonder how far I can go on empty. I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna see how far I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna see where I break down on the side of the road, and then I'll call for help. Because that's what females, I feel like that's what we're taught to do.
Absolutely.
Go
Yes.
push that gas pedal as hard as you can,
Yes.
and then go until you absolutely break down.
I actually think that we gaslight ourselves so often that we don't give ourselves credit. We are running 1,000 different ways. We have responsibilities that are lists long, people to take care of, and we're forgetting the most important person. That's ourself.
Or hormones, if we think about it as a pyramid, hormones are at the top of the pyramid. But what's at the base? We need a really solid base and foundation. And basically, those are all our micronutrients.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic podcast session for Magnolia Wellness. This is our third session that we've done where we are able to bring some very wonderful experts in the field of women's midlife health and perimenopause and menopause, and have an eye-opening and engaging discussion about what's really happening with our bodies, strategies that we can use to help us improve our quality of life, thrive during this time. And we're just really, really excited. Today, we are very thankful to be joined by our founder of Magnolia Wellness, Theresa Loveland, registered nurse and a very well-trained and expert on perimenopause and menopause. And joining us as our special guest today is Blair Grant. Welcome, Blair. Blair is a very skilled and experienced APRN from the state of Hawaii, which is our home state, Blair and I. So that's very exciting. And she has a really fantastic company that is a cornerstone for women's midlife health, both from the medical perspective and from the wellness overall, functional medicine, and actually nutrients and what you're putting in your body. So today, we are here to chat about micronutrients, what the role of micronutrients are in your body. You may have often heard of them referred to as your body's spark plugs, quote unquote. And they're the tiny screws that keep your metabolic engine, what's responsible for a lot of your body's basic functions, from kind of rattling apart. So it really helps to keep us together. There's a very clear connection between these micronutrients and your hormones. And we are going to get to talk a little bit about that today, get in depth with what those micronutrients are and why they are valuable and how you can use strategies to help you thrive during this period of your life. So let's get started. Theresa, why do you think micronutrients are such a missing piece in most women's midlife health journey?
So a couple things come to mind here. One thing is I think there's just an overall general lack of knowledge and education and information that is shared with women. And if you don't know what you don't know, then you just keep going forward and try to do the best that you can. The other thing that I think plays a significant role is in midlife, there's a shift in physiology with our hormones in particular. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and that has a really big impact on all of our body systems and functions. And so estrogen has a huge impact on our bones, on our metabolic health, on our cardiovascular system. The third component that I think is really important with this question is that women in this time of their life are so busy and we tend to put ourselves last. We're caring for others, whether that's children or elderly parents or other family members. And we tend to justify things that could be signs and symptoms that are nutrient loss or impacted by the change in our physiology with our hormones.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is that our bodies are so incredibly complex and hormones play a role, our daily life and our daily stressors play a role, but also some of those things that we may not think about, including micronutrients.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Blair, can you expand a little bit? So So we've heard that micronutrients sort of act as like a communication bridge between hormones and metabolism. But what does that really mean? What are they doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times when I treat any female or working with a individual client and they want to get on hormones, I'll always do a comprehensive panel of blood work to have a look at their all their other functions in their body, right? Because hormones are incredible, but if we're missing all these other pieces, they can only work as well as they can, right? And we probably have to keep increasing the dose and all these other things. So a lot of times when I always want to first look at nutrients and any micronutrient depletions before we jump into hormones, because a lot of times females will come to me and they'll say, I'm tired all the time, my hair's thinning, I just can't lose the weight no matter what I do, I feel snappy, foggy, I just don't feel like me. And yes, that's a big piece of hormones, but the other thing is, well, what else is going on? If you're, hormones, I always like to think are like the icing on the cake. That's like the end result. Or hormones, if we think about it as a pyramid, hormones are at the top of the pyramid. But what's at the base? We need a really solid base and foundation. And basically, those are all our micronutrients. Like we're missing like basic ingredients and we're trying to go straight to the top of the pyramid. So I always really want to start there. And when I say like they're the spark plugs, when I think about that, it's like, when I think of like analogy of a car, right? A car is a vehicle, right? But in order for it to run, you need the spark plugs, you need the wiring, you need the maintenance fluids, all these little invisible things that make the machine, which is your body, to run really smooth. Just like, for instance, you're not going to drive your car 50,000 miles or 100,000 miles without changing the oil, without changing your tires, without having a look under the hood to figure out what is going on and how can my car run more efficiently. Basically, you're just going to break down on the side of the road. And unfortunately, that is the result of a lot of females that I end up seeing. They're at like such complete of a lost state and their bodies are just breaking down on them. And it's such a hard thing to experience, right? More than anything. So I always really want to look at, like I say, like the spark plugs, the inner working. I like to lift that hood up and really have a look about, what's under it and what key ingredients are we missing that your body really needs in order to run super optimally.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love that. I love that analogy. Sort of, you can't drive the car without the basic components that it takes to make it run, and that they all kind of interconnect and work with each other.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
So spark plugs, when we think about a car, we need tons of them, right? Like we need a lot. What are the key micronutrients that we're talking about? I mean, we're faced with, like, you go to any drugstore and you see hundreds of different options for vitamins and, nutrients. But what are some of the ones that are really key in sort of women's midlife health?
Okay, so a couple of things I always think about. I would say I'll think about it from my patient perspective. What am I seeing the most when it comes to vitamin depletion and then more significant symptoms? A lot of times what I'm seeing or experiencing with my clients. One of the big ones that come to mind are B vitamins. B vitamins are incredible. Are like, basically they're the energy makers. They help with estrogen clearing as well. All your B vitamins help you make ATP, which is basically the power currency of your cells and within your body. And if these B vitamins are low, we have brain fog. Our metabolism slows down. Our mood is slow. Or our mood is just off, right? We can just be moody. Our thyroid isn't working as well. We just can't feel like great and straight, and like everything feels a little jumbled. An interesting thing about this, and a lot of times I would say why it's low. One, mainly because we're probably just not eating a well-balanced diet. Unfortunately, that's half of it, right? If we can clean up our diet, that's huge. Another piece is that about 60% of the population has some form of a DNA deficit or a missing enzyme, where we're unable to convert the active form of B vitamins that come from the food into the active forms within our body. Meaning that if I have a good piece of protein, say a piece of steak that has a lot of B vitamins in it, you might be missing an enzyme in your body that converts that steak into the active form of B vitamins in your body. So we just might naturally have lower levels of it, which is really challenging. I'm doing a lot of blood testing to see what their levels are and how we can best support them. So that's one thing I would say, definitely being aware and mindful of it. Now, it's a little confusing when you go to the pharmacy or the drugstore or wherever you're going to get vitamins, because a lot of the B vitamins are more synthetic. So one of the most common ones you'll see is methylcobalamin. Not methylcobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is synthetic. We want methylated forms. So we want methylcobalamin, adenosine cobalamin, hydroxycobalamin. So if you really want to look for it, it'd be methylated. It's a methylated form of your B vitamins. You can also get it from food. So animal meat proteins, greens, salmon, eggs, liver, animal organs are really amazing for it. But again, probably not the most delicious. But if you're really running low on it, I do find that replacing those are really important. One thing I would say too, really just optimizing these levels for my females that I work with, about 30% to even 40% of some of their, hormonal related symptoms are improved. So that's pretty significant, I would say.
Wow. Interesting.
I just learned something new from you. I didn't know that 60%, you said 60% of women or 60% of
General
humans?
population. Humans.
General population don't have the enzyme to convert?
Yep.
That's
so we're
a
a lot
big
of we have
percentage.
it's quite big, and there's different forms, right? So when we think about methylation pathways, we can have deficits in different areas of it. I think there's don't quote me on it, maybe 6 different genes that look at that as well. So I do genetic testing too if we're really struggling to get somebody's levels up, just to kind of hone in to be more specific about which forms are going to be best for their body. So levels tend to go pretty low for a lot of my clients. So it's a one that I would say, no matter how much food you're going to eat, your body might be missing those enzymes. So let's just take it in a supplement form.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. I just learned that's a huge light bulb for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Magnesium also has a big interplay with this as well. So vitamin B6, you need enough vitamin B6 to be able to absorb and bring magnesium into your cells. Magnesium is really important. It's our calming hormone. Most of us are in more of this burnout stage. We were in high cortisol for a while because we're just running on fumes basically. And then we've all kind of get into this burnt out stage. Magnesium is definitely going to be your friend here. Anytime we have a lot of excess stress on board, it really eats away at magnesium. So magnesium is amazing. Unfortunately, our soil is very depleted of magnesium and zinc. So it is hard to get enough food that's magnesium rich for maybe the amounts that we need, especially for rather busy or very stressed in our overall life. Low magnesium can result in low thyroid output, so hypothyroidism. It also works hand in hand with calcium. If you have too much calcium and not enough magnesium, that can make you actually feel really wired. So we want to actually give it in balance with each other. Basically, you need both, but if you have too much calcium, sometimes they're always supplement calcium, but actually can make you feel more wired if you're not balancing it with magnesium. And then magnesium also is super important because it helps to keep calcium in the bones and away from your blood vessels. So when we think about menopause, perimenopause, or losing bone, we want to keep calcium in those bones. So super, super important there.
Magnesium is also really great for muscle recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Smooth muscle. There's 4 different kinds of magnesium. Is that right?
There's actually 7 different forms of magnesium.
Okay.
The ones that I always think about. So unfortunately, again, magnesium oxide is huge in supplementation. That's really great if you're constipated and you need to go to the bathroom. It basically pools fluid into your colon and makes you go to the bathroom. You don't absorb it at all. So magnesium oxide is not a great choice. If you're looking for a calming, relaxing form of magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate, really great, very absorbable. Magnesium threonate is really great for brain health. So anybody that feels a little foggy, I'll put them normally on a combination of magnesium threonate and then a magnesium glycinate. But there's different combinations or different forms you can take of it. But yeah, 7 different forms, so many different functions within the body. But really, I think about it as this is our calming hormone. It decreases stress. It allows us to relax. It helps us to stay asleep. A lot of females actually will start supplementing with magnesium in the night and find that their sleep actually improves quite a bit, which is nice. Yeah.
I love my magnesium. I take my magnesium and literally 45 minutes later, good night. It's amazing. Yes.
Fantastic. Wow. 7 different forms of magnesium. As a woman who's honestly, trying to navigate this whole journey, I really think that it does speak to who's your support system, who are the trusted individuals, and that might be physicians, advanced practice registered nurses, nurse practitioners, nurses, navigators. Who are those folks that are going to point you in the right direction and really give you the evidence-based approach to this versus something on your Instagram feed that shows up because your algorithm heard you talking about magnesium. I mean, it's really important to understand that, we deserve to know more about this and dive as deep as we can, or work with the resources that can support us.
Yeah, I feel like half the time with my practice, I'm actually taking supplements away. Like either there's like two forms of clients. One client will take nothing at all because they have no idea what to take, or the other client is taking everything under the sun. And I'm like, okay, let's peel this back. This is very expensive urine. We don't need all of this.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
specifically give your body what it needs and the amounts needed, right? Most supplements you could say are not super harmful, but some can accumulate in your system. You do have to be careful. And just like anything, it's just give your body what it needs, not all the excess noise.
Yeah.
Many,
yeah.
I want to just add a little comment. So it makes me chuckle. So many years ago, when I first started working as a registered nurse in a hospital setting, I worked with this fantastic dietitian. And I don't know how we got talking about it, but we were talking about like nutrients and supplements. And she was saying that so many people have expensive urine. And I was say, what? And she said, yeah, your body uses what it needs and then it just pees out the rest. So, and supplements can be really, really expensive, especially as you add more on. So I don't know how many people know that they have expensive urine, but it's just, take a step back and like what Kelly was saying, consult with people that know what they're doing and can help support you and listen and avoid that expensive urine.
Yeah. Well, and I would say on the other side of it, there are I learned from primary care, it's called ADDIC, A, D, E, and K. Those are your four vitamins that are fat soluble, meaning they can accumulate in your system and you can actually have toxic levels of it. So you're not going to shishi or urinate them out. So that's definitely something concerning. I've had people with very toxic levels because you can just buy like 50,000 IUs of vitamin D over the counter and people are taking that daily, or there's in like multiple ones, right?
Yeah.
So those ones you do have to be careful of. With vitamin D, especially, I normally do lab work, blood work to look at their levels and we'll dose them specifically to that. Vitamin D is another really good like pro hormone. So this is really helpful for females and males as well. It helps with hormone transportation. Low levels will interfere with hormone transportation. So vitamin D, super, super important. I love it. This is another one that has a genetic break. So for me in particular, there's 3 genes for vitamin D. You have to be able to absorb it from the sun. You have to be able to transport it in your body, and then you have to be able to receive it at the receptors. For me, I have breaks in all 3 of those genes. So it doesn't matter how much time I spend in the sun. The sun's amazing, right? We get other benefits from it, but I'm never going to get my vitamin D from that. So that is actually something I do need to supplement at a fairly high dose just to get my minimum like basic amount of it. Other thing with vitamin D, I always like to supplement together with vitamin K. D3, K2. Naturally, when you take vitamin D, it will increase your calcium levels. Same as like magnesium and vitamin D work really synergistically together. So a lot of times if my clients have low calcium levels, I'll optimize their magnesium and vitamin D levels first. And most of the time calcium will rise with that, which is really great. Vitamin K and that magnesium really help to shift that calcium into the bones and out of the blood vessels. Just supplementing with calcium can cause vessel stiffening. And we don't obviously want blood vessel stiffening.
Yeah. Vitamin D is harder to get through food, correct? It's mostly through...
It is. A lot of times it's fortified foods. You can get some from sardines, salmon, cod liver oil, egg yolks, but it's still technically our best source is going to be the sun if you have that genetic ability to do it, which most of us ish do, depending on like what your ethnicity background is. You'll have either an easier time or not so much.
Yeah. I've noticed with our clients that quite a few of them they are low on vitamin D where they weren't before. And so there's some sort of shift that's happening in that midlife that's driving that vitamin D to drop.
So one thing I would even say about that, and interesting, and I don't know if this has a correlation to it too, but I find there's studies out there that say, is it the depression or low mood or the anxiety that leads to low vitamin D? Or is it the low vitamin D that leads to a depressed mood or more anxiety? We don't know necessarily, but what we do know is higher levels significantly improve your overall mood and behavior, right? Especially with COVID, there was tons of study out there showing if you have optimal levels of vitamin D, and when I say optimal on a blood test, you're looking for the upper fourth quartile to get your lab work in. So if the range is from like 30 to 100, you kind of want to be around 80, right? And it's kind of interesting to see the cutoffs for low vitamin D. It's like you're pretty much depleted of it completely until the provider is going to do something. So I have different ranges when I look at it. But vitamin D, incredible for your immune health. And sometimes too, right? So when we know when estrogen is decreasing, it interferes with our gut microbiome. So I don't know if there's a interference gut microbiome, lower immunity, lower vitamin D status. Ultimately, get your vitamin D checked, supplement when it's depleted, and everything else kind of falls into place, right? Or get some sunlight, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. It sounds like, Blair, you really take a very detailed approach to unpacking every client or patient's specific micronutrient profile, along with what else may be going on in their body from a hormone perspective at the same time. That's fantastic. What if I'm a woman who may not have access to going to see someone who specializes in micronutrients? What are some things that I could do to help maybe identify what my micronutrient needs might be, or just my metabolic needs might be?
I think number one, listen to your body, first of all, right? Our body gives us amazing signals. We just are often not wide enough, slow enough, or take the time to really listen to it. So definitely always encourage everybody to pause and have more like be time instead of doing time, to really just listen and nourish your body, right? The other thing I would say is like food is your friend and food is your foe, right? So if you are not eating real food, that's normally the first place to start. I would say cutting out anything that doesn't look like real food is a great start. I know that's sometimes easier said than done. A lot of people will say, well, what specifically should I eat? And I was like, well, let's just start with real, like real food. Was it grown from the ground? Did it grow from a tree? Was it living on the land? Okay, great. Does it look like the form it maybe came in? Okay, good. That's a really, really good start, right? I mean, and then I would say like variety, getting good variety, because we want to feed all the different gut microbiomes in our body too. Often we're not eating just to eat for calories. We're actually eating to feed our gut microbiome, which then that's where all of our calories are kind of expending to. But I would say that definitely look to your nutrition first. Where can you clean up? What's that 1% change you can make where you're making 1% of a healthier choice every day, or trying one new food each week? That's a real food choice. The other thing I would say when it comes to absorbing all the nutrients from the food that we're eating, that's like a big piece, right? So sometimes we can eat I get clients that come, they're eating super clean, but for some reason their nutrient levels are low, and even excluding for any genetic basis. And that's because a lot of times their gut is really off. So many of us, I'm a culprit of it too. When I'm eating, slightly mindless eating, I'm at my desk, I'm like shoveling it in, eating as fast as I can, not really paying attention. Our body was meant to slow down. We were meant to smell our food, look at our food. We're meant to chew up to 40 times before we swallow, which is crazy. I'm like trying to chew like 20 times. And even then I'm like, okay, this is a bit much. But basically the reason why we're meant to smell our food, look at our food, fully chew it, have it in a social setting is because that allows your brain to send the signal to your stomach to say, hey, food is coming in. I want you to start releasing some digestive enzymes. It's kind of like a simplified version of it. Start releasing some more acid into the stomach because food's going to be coming in. And I want to make sure our stomach has all those digestive enzymes, all that, high acid to be able to break down all that food that's going to be coming in. Also, we have enzymes in our mouth and within our saliva too. So that's half of the process of chewing it really well. A lot of times our stomach, the environment of our stomach is off. And it's just because we tend to be shoveling food in. We're not mindful about it. And if we're doing that, we're not really chewing really well. We're not breaking down the food. The food's not being broken down in our stomach. And then therefore we're not absorbing it. We're not getting the full nutrient availability from the foods that we're eating. So that's kind of like a little option, right? And I encourage like social eating and or just truly taking a break. Do we have 5 minutes, 10 minutes where we're not in front of a screen where we can eat? Even just eat. A lot of times people will eat dinner and watch TV. Just really mindless eating, and it's not ideal.
I think too, I would just add that so many women don't understand the influence that estrogen has on the gut microbiome. And so they might be fine, and then they enter this midlife phase, and then all of a sudden they're not, and they can't figure out what's going on. And it's so important to know and understand that estrogen does absolutely have an impact, which could lead to all the things that you're talking about.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if you're getting a normal blood test done with your primary doctor, they'll look at your complete blood count. One indication, a couple indications you can look at. So one would be a decreasing of your white blood cell count. A low white blood cell count is often a sign of gut dysbiosis, immune system being off. That's a big sign of it. Elevated basophils, that can be a lot of stomach inflammation. Also looking at your complete comprehensive metabolic profile, if your globulin levels are low, that's one of our proteins, or your total protein is low, most of the time you're not breaking down that food well enough to be able to truly absorb it. But yeah, it's a huge one. I feel like that's a really big piece that a lot of individuals don't really give enough, or females don't give enough credit to, right? Of how that can truly interfere with the digestion, the microbiome, and how we're able to absorb different nutrients.
And I think there's so much more that we're learning about gut microbiome. It's kind of a hot topic. And I also think that we have some research, but we also do not have a lot of research. And so I think the next probably decade will be really fascinating to see what sort of comes from the different things that we can learn.
Yeah.
So if I have never heard of the term gut microbiome before, help me understand what it is.
Yeah. So gut microbiome, basically, they're all the tiny little bugs that live along our stomach and all throughout our intestines and colon. And they basically they modulate our immune system. They help to break down foods. They help to navigate absorption and digestion of all of our nutrients as well. So it is really important. It's really like a really cutting edge field right now, because it's like there's so much more they're exploring. The amount of microbiome is so abundant in our body. And that's why I always say, like, we're eating to feed our microbiome, right? And when our microbiome is off, we can have signs of bloating, or bowel movements, or nutrient absorption. We can get bloating. We can have, I would even go down to like estrogen dominance or high amounts of estrogen recycling. We don't want, right? We're not metabolizing out the hormones in a proper way. So this is where food is your friend. Plants are your friend. Eat lots of them, a good variety of them, as organic as possible, if can, right? That's where fibrous plants feed our microbiome the most, and different microbiome. A lot of females do suffer sometimes from like yeast infections. So we can take all these like symptoms that come up, yeast infections, poor bowel movements. These are all signs that our body is telling us something is off with our gut, right? Something is not right. Let's kind of dig in there a little bit more and see what else could be going on.
Yeah, I think that this is the case for a lot of women. I mean, and it's not exclusive just to women. I think understanding that what's happening in our gut and our digestive system is about so much more than just what's going in and coming out. However, what's going in and coming out really, really is important to pay attention to and work with deeply. I love what you said. A couple of things that really resonated for me was food is your friend. Another is that, things that you can see, that you can touch, that you can feel in their natural form, always going to be better. And I especially love food for thought, letting your body and your mind make the connection to what's going into your body so that it can take the action. If you're shoveling it down and just moving on, you're not giving space for it. And really what that means to be conscious and be present. Plus, we could all stand a little bit of be time and slowing down in our lives.
I think our whole world needs that.
Perimenopause, in that menopause transition, our body just can't handle the stress like it needs to, or used to, right? We don't have those buffers anymore. So really take that like into our body is an oracle. It will give us signs that our mind cannot tell us, right? Take the time and listen to it. Don't push it under the rug. Just like your car, you need to maintenance your car. You're never gonna I always think like, okay, when my gas light comes on in my car, I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta pull over and I gotta fill that up, or else, no one's ever thinking like, I wonder how far I can go on empty. I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna see how far I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna see where I break down on the side of the road, and then I'll call for help. Because that's what females, I feel like that's what we're taught to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Go push that gas pedal as hard as you can,
Yes.
and then go until you absolutely break down, and then
Yes.
wave the white flag and say, "Oh, okay, I think I finally need help." Like, prevention is so important, or just listening to our body. Our body gives us all these little cues. And then by the time we're like broken down on the side of the road, it is shouting at us to the
Yes.
point where we can't ignore it. And often that means we have a full blown disease state,
Yes.
right? Like we
Yeah.
can that's why we say listen to your body. It is giving us signs. It is trying to tell us that we need to do something. And we don't want to wait until we're broken down on the side of the road going, "Oh yeah, gas pedal it." Like,
I came across this great saying, and it totally resonated with Theresa and I. Nature that deserves to be nurtured. What's happening in our body, right? These are natural processes, right? These are things that we can embrace, but we can't do it if we just run it on empty until we have nothing left.
nothing
Yeah.
left. And it's like unfortunate that it's not like that's not an uncommon
Yeah.
dialogue. No, I mean, I had that dialogue.
Sure.
Yes.
Like, I feel like we all, I mean, my thyroid nearly fell off until I started listening to my body. I mean, it's incredible what we can push ourselves to do. But I
Yeah.
feel like that's the difference between resiliency versus toxic resiliency. And I feel like in the world right now, we live in this toxic resilient world where we are
Yeah.
fiercely independent. We do not ask for help. We
No.
muscle up. We try to fit into the pants of a man and say, "I'm going to be the same person every day." And that's just not true. That's just not how we're meant to live. And we need to honor and nourish that more.
I think women also, we really gaslight ourselves.
Mhm.
I actually think that we gaslight ourselves so often that
Mhm.
we don't give ourselves credit. We are running 1,000 different ways. We have responsibilities that are lists long,
Mhm.
people to take care of, and we're forgetting the most important person. That's ourself. So like tune in to the
Mhm.
body and listen and make notes of your symptoms and bring those to the doctor, bring them to the nurse practitioner, advanced practice. All right.
Theresa, we talked about some of the lab markers that we can use to track. We talked about listening to your body. How about other tools? We've got a lot of technology out there. What else can kind of help us to cue into what's happening in our bodies?
So there are lots of variety of wearables that are now out there and available to us. And I wouldn't say that those can measure your micronutrients, per se, but they can measure, some of our activities. Sleep comes to mind. So the quality of sleep, how long you're sleeping, how deep you're sleeping, all of those things. And then, it can summarize it for you. All of those things, if there's any abnormality, it can really clue you in to places that you can focus on. So if you're having a hard time sleeping, for example, or you're getting up and you're exhausted, those are things that would be really, really helpful for a physician to know and understand in order to help you, Heart rate variability is another one. Even your menstrual cycle, that is like the fifth vital sign. How long your cycle is, how short your cycle is, the space in between your cycle, how heavy or how light, the flow. All of these things are clues into a woman's. So I think that, again, it's really paying attention to those signs. So like why we have these awesome tools and, these wearables that can be really insightful, but connecting those to something. The woman has to understand, like they have to. I remember being in nursing school and this professor was saying like, okay, you can stand here and look at this machine all day, but you need to actually like look at the person and have a conversation with them. And if they can't converse, like you need to do other things to find out like what is really going on and make the connection. Use it as a tool. It's not something that should be totally 100% relied on.
Yeah, a nurse's approach overall is to look at the person.
Yes.
And I think I think that's an amazing insight, and it's always a great reminder to us to say, okay, the data, the numbers can tell us, all kinds of different stuff. We've got more data than we know what to do with now in
Yes.
our society. But
Yeah.
how does it translate to what that particular patient or client or woman is going through? What is her unique experience like? And I think that's kind of the foundation of what we're talking about here in midlife health, in perimenopause and menopause, is let's connect it to what this unique experience is for this woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think and data and technology are great as well. I think we have had incredible advances in some of the tracking tools. There are some fantastic nutritional apps out there where you can simply take a picture of the food that you're eating, and it will give you a fairly accurate of what some of those nutrients are that are in that food. And so, we're definitely always continuing to make it easier for women and for people to kind of do the right thing. And it then becomes, how do you make sense of all of the different options that you have? How do you put it together in a package that helps? And if it was me, I would love to have an expert like Blair and Theresa by my side helping me say, okay, you know what? Let's think about this part of it. Let's prioritize this work. And so what you folks are passionate about and are doing on a day-to-day basis is just incredible. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a
Thank
couple
you.
things I wanted to share, if that's all right. So a couple
Yeah.
points. Theresa, I always tell my females, I'm like, how lucky are we that we get an extra vital sign of our cycle? And it really helps to shift it, because sometimes people are doing everything they can not to get a period. And then a lot of the females, when they stop having a period, they're like, oh, I missed my period. So, that tells us so much. So I do love that. When it comes to wearables, I always base it off of the individual, because sometimes if someone's in a state of overwhelm, giving them another data point is just
Yeah.
like, right, it's way
Yes.
too much. So like the antidote to overwhelm is nothingness, right? Sometimes we just need like nothing to cure in that moment from when we're feeling overwhelmed. I think wearables are really great to give you a nudge. If anything, I always encourage my clients, like, look at the data and then pause and then ask yourself, how do I feel today?
Yeah.
How do I feel today? Right? What do I feel in my body? My watch is telling me this, but what does that feel like in my body? So it helps to make that connection, because sometimes people are so unaware of things that are happening in their body. So it can help to make that connect. But then I've seen it on the other end where people are like only relying on that data and not listening to their body.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So you're
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
we got to find that like happy medium a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Excellent insights. Theresa, one of the common experiences that women will describe to us is that they're chronically tired or fatigued, or they're just exhausted. Practically, what are some energy reset steps that women can do to sort of reset what they've got going on, give them a little bit of a boost, and set them going in the right direction?
Sleep in capital letters. It's like we have 5 pillars that we utilize at Magnolia Collective Wellness. And the foundation of that is sleep. If you don't have that, or quality of it will influence so many things. It's kind of a domino effect. And really evaluating your sleep and just really understanding that it needs to be prioritized. It's not something to be sacrificed. It's also not a luxury. It is truly essential. Teaching about like sleep hygiene, which I feel is so kind of this trendy thing, but there's serious weight behind it. So, do you have a cool and dark room? Is it quiet? For women that experience night sweats or hot flashes, making sure that they're in clothing that is breathable and sheets that are breathable. Do you need to have a fan next to you? Is there some sort of white noise? The bedtime routine before going to bed is also extremely important. So some women like to have a bath. Some women like to read. Definitely avoiding screens. There's a variable. I've noticed a variation, 30 minutes all the way up to 60 minutes. So just trying to figure out what works for them is important. Going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. There is a lot of truth behind that. I used to poo-poo that personally, but oh my gosh, it really matters now. So it impacts, the The circadian rhythm is true. And especially when you enter midlife and you have those hormonal fluctuations that are happening and how they can impact other hormones is enormous. Sleep in capital letters, it is not a luxury. It is absolutely essential.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. I wanted to dive just a little deeper specifically into a couple of micronutrients. Blair, we hear about the two micronutrients, DHEA and pregnenolone, I think. How do they fit in?
Yeah, so these are hormone precursors. So when we think about the hormonal cascade and how our body actually makes hormones, so in order to even make your pregnenolone and DHEA, we need to have enough cholesterol. So that's really important. I always feel like this is an ongoing debate between endocrinologists and cardiologists. Cardiologists want your cholesterol super low. But once your total cholesterol drops below 140, you actually can't make pregnenolone anymore. And then interesting, the connection here too is that when you are in perimenopause, menopause, this is when a lot of females start to see their cholesterol start to increase. They haven't they haven't changed their diet, they haven't changed anything else, and their cholesterol is going up. And they're like, what's going on? It's basically your body's compensatory mechanism saying, hey, we're all out of these sex hormones here. We need to start making more hormones. So your body starts producing more cholesterol to try to get that hormone cascade going again. So basically, the hormone cascade, you have cholesterol. From cholesterol, we make pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is like our mother of all hormones. This one is really important on a blood test. It needs to be above 50 for cognitive health. If you have a family history of Alzheimer's, dementia, this is really important, and you can supplement if your levels are low. But pregnenolone, and I would say both of these too, going back to Theresa about sleep and stress, like you can't out supplement stress basically in your body. There's nothing we can do to out supplement stress in our body. Stress produces cortisol. Cortisol is a survival hormone. Pregnenolone, DHEA, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, these are not survival hormones. Our body can live without all of them. And obviously we do post-menopause, right? But your body can't live without cortisol. And when we're stressed, it wants to keep producing cortisol, and it'll start to eat away at all of our pregnenolone and DHEA. Pregnenolone, I think more about like brain health. This is really important for mood, memory, stress resilience, hence why we have less stress resilience as we age. Pregnenolone and DHEA peak around our late 20s, early 30s, and then it slowly does decline with age. It's a natural decline. However, excess stress states, which female doesn't experience stress at some point in time, or I always say, if my females say, oh, I'm not stressed, and I ask them, how busy are you? What does your schedule look like? And they list everything off. I'm like, that's stress. Stress will start to eat away at it. So it starts to really start to plummet, right? More than anything. So pregnenolone really enhances memory, helps with nerve damage repair, improves sleep, improves your resistance to stress, promotes good mood, stimulates the formation of new brain cells, and reduces pain and inflammation. So really, really helpful there. Pregnenolone turns into DHEA. DHEA then goes down the testosterone and estrogen pathway. In theory, they say if your DHEA levels are low, that could make your testosterone low. Sometimes they say if you supplement with DHEA, it increases testosterone. In theory, it doesn't always happen that way, though, so it's not a complete conversion. But DHEA, really important. I just went to a conference over the weekend, really, really important for bone growth. Really important for bone growth. So if you are a female that is osteopenic, osteoporosis, get those DHEA levels looked at. Make sure we're having enough of it at a therapeutic level. DHEA is super anti-inflammatory. It improves the aging of our skin. It increases lean body mass. It reduces blood sugar levels, supports with your immune health. So these are just really vital. We don't always think about them, but I always think, well, if we're going to be treating our hormones, which top of the pyramid, I think of DHEA, pregnenolone right at the middle of the pyramid. You have your essential nutrients, then you have your pregnenolone, DHEA, kind of thyroid area, insulin, and then your testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone are at the top of them.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I got to tell you guys, I feel like we could unpack in an individual episode each one of these nutrients.
Totally.
Just, it is so eye-opening to understand how so many parts of what we're going through and what we're putting in our body and how our body is responding are all interconnected. They feed off of each other. And the more respect we give, the more strength we show in connecting all of these things together, the more we can thrive and move forward in a comprehensive way on our journey. Before we finish today, I just wanted to give each of you guys a chance. Would love to hear any parting words from you folks. Blair?
I would just say that, I think of our hormones are a symphony, basically, and they can only play really beautiful and make this really beautiful music if we have everything else aligned in our body, right? So don't just dismiss your body's messages. You know, when your body's whispering certain things to you, like, I'm pretty tired, I'm really craving something, something's off in my body, don't push it under the rug. Don't hush it
Yep.
away. Like, listen to it. Your body's trying to speak to you. You know, if you don't have access to all these other things, it's okay. Just real food. Think about real food. Chew, eat socially. You feed your body really well, and your body will show you the magic it has.
Thank you, Theresa.
Blair stole my thunder a little bit. No, I think it's really just strip it down. It's really basic. Literally just listen to your body and what is trying to tell you, and make notes and journal. You don't need anything fancy to do that. And then notice if there's patterns, you know, if there's some sort of trend that's happening, make note of that. And I think also finding a right provider that will listen to you and truly, truly listen to you and spend more than 7 or 15 minutes with you, because sorry, but the medical system is not really set up to support midlife women, in my opinion. There are some fantastic people out there like Blair, like Magnolia, where we truly, truly listen to women. And a lot of times that is what they need. They need that validation. So parting words, slow it down, strip it down, really, truly tune into what you're feeling and make note of it, and do not suffer.
Thank you both so much. Blair Grant, your practice is Optimal Health Hawaii, and we are Magnolia Collective Wellness. And I just wanted to send a sincere gratitude out to both of you guys for joining us today, the first of many. So very exciting. And here's to all the women thriving during this point in our journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.